how a political campaign corresponds to a lot of professional service marketing, candidates probably do a better job at getting to more touch points more personally than any other group I found. That's what it's all about because everybody's looking for that social interaction, that down to earth, grassroots type of interaction. But the only problem is that there's not one particular media that gets you there to do that.
Right.
And so you got 100 touch points and you're supposed to be personal at 100 places at the same time.
Right.
And politicians do that as well as anyone.
Yeah. And it was, I think too, it's a little bit different when you're, when you're a politician, your brand is so much more personal. Even like with an accounting services or something like that, even if it's a single person shop, it's still my accountant or my lawyer. A lot of times people will refer to the representative by their first name. Effective politicians are really good at doing that. And so you're right. That's again, that's where like I always come back to the whole planning concept. It's just like figuring out where you can be involved that's going to give you the most value is just really important because then you can be a lot more effective at hitting those touch points very quickly. And
What you said that I was really interested in, and I thought you just nailed it very well, was the actual portion of when you look at, okay, with this crowd, with this driving issue that's getting a lot of publicity, you need to zero in, give your answer, and send that message to that crowd, very specific message and what it's
right,
all about. But then, of course, back off to the general population, give a broader message. So your message is according to what demographic or psychographic has the intensity level has to change,
right.
and that's one of the things that allows you, if you recognize that, that's one of the things that allows you to generate the different levels of intensity you need for touch points.
Right. Well, that's one thing that I probably, I should have mentioned. I didn't include it in my comments at the time, but I mean, the reality is, your broad message, the general public, you're really only going to get an opportunity to talk about two or three things that are going to relate back to you. So that's why figuring out what needs to be communicated to discrete audience versus what can be communicated to the general public is so important because I've lost track of the number of candidates who've given me a palm card that has 15 different things they want to do on it. Someone's going to look at that and go blind. They're not going to pay attention to any of that stuff. Whereas if they were to only focus on one or two things on that palm card that's going to match up with their broader media strategy, what they're communicating to the broad audience, then that's going to resonate a lot more effectively because the discrete audience is going to know what you care about their issue. As long as you're communicating effectively with them, it does, your broad stuff is great, but they're going to fall in love with you because you're talking about the thing they care about, and all the other stuff is going to fall by the wayside anyway.
Of course, and I use that greatest example. I mean, Obama beat the best known person in the world, political war veteran with 10 times more experience than him, and he beat them both with just a simple word of change.
Oh, what was the second book? Not his first book, but the second book that he did. I can't remember what it's called. But those themes, that manner of communication is laced throughout there. It's all about building trust, relating to people. Those very kinds of, you call it retail politics, but it's a little bit more than that. But folks are wired to respond to that message. Their message ties in very well with those themes. And then when you have the other side come back and say, well, we need to cut this and do that, because they don't communicate it in a way that's compatible to how people want to receive the message, it gets lost and gets painted as being cruel or intolerable or whatever. And the reality is we just need to recognize how we deliver the message and make sure it's rhyming with how people want to receive it.